Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about discrimination in the work area because of the skin color. So, there we go. What is racialization? Racialization is to assign certain physical attributes of human beings to to general categories of races, which are usually projected as real biological groups that reproduce with each other. There is no biological basics for the categorization of human groups into races, but these categorizations have important consequences in the reproduction and legitimization of economic, cultural, social, and political inequalities. Skin color can be a catalytic for inequality as in the consideration of criteria of social categorization.
And so how is it observed? Well, people with darker skin color have less social mobility than people with lighter skin tone. For example, 44% of the dark skin people who are born poor stay poor. And the darker the skin color, the lower of the percent of the people employed in the higher skills activities. Next, we will see how the color of the skin of Mexicans affect their labor development.
In Mexico, the probability of a light-skinned college student of attaining a well-paid job is 11%, whereas for dark-skinned students, the probability is just 4%. Dark-skinned people represent 49% of the laborers, farmers, or domestic services activities, compared to only the 24% occupied by light-skinned people.
And as my partner Valeria told us, there are a lot of statistics about how skin color influences your perspective on the world, your society, environment in general. Like, did you know that 3.3% of Mexicans in three lightest skin tones did not have any level of schooling, compared to 6.8% of for Mexicans self-classified in the three darkest skin tones. Also, 26.4% of Mexicans with lighter skin tones have university studies. The proportion drops to 7.5% for those with darker skin tones. And what about social mobility? We have that the skin tone has a systematic effect on the material wealth and access to public goods and Mexican services. The survey conducted by the American Barometer in 2010 finds that 54% of Mexicans have witnessed acts of discrimination based on their appearances. And a test carried out by Eva Arceo in Raimundo campus finds that people with dark skin have 80% more times than those with fair skin to receive the same number of calls when they are searching for a job.
And another important aspect is that for many professions, education matters. And if there is a gap in education, it will almost likely be reflect in the world of work. For example, the 22% of the people with darker skin do not have any level of schooling, while the figure drops to 10% for the people with lighter skin. As an addition, skin color and gender is relevant. It was found for the woman, it matters material status and the skin color. More likely, they respond to white than indigenous women. But the racial discrimination is not limited to Mexico.
Oh, yeah, sure, it's not. The situation is not only happening in Mexico, as discrimination for skin color is happening all over the world. For instance, one example is that there was an economic analysis in Brazil that found that mulatto and black Brazilians earn from 20 to 25% less than whites in the same job. And the situation is, of course, even worse for women. As we know, women always have lower salaries than men, and the situation is even worse when they are black. Also, another example is in the USA, where race and skin color is actually the most common reason of discrimination. There was a survey in 2020, where 1 in 4 Black workers reported employment discrimination, being those under 40 years old almost twice as likely to report discrimination. And the two groups most discriminated in the USA are the Black and Hispanic employees. But we would like to know the situation in Malaysia.
Yes, as some Malaysia also have the situation of colorism. As we all know that Malaysia is a multiracial nation. There are three main races in Malaysia, which are Malay, Chinese, and Indian. And I'm a Chinese, while my partner AB is an Indian. In my life, actually, I strongly feel that most of the Malaysians still have some unconscious skin color stereotype, even colorism, especially for the mindset of Malaysian Chinese, as I know. Like for example, in my experience, I always be instill a mindset since I was young for like the Indians is fierce and criminal. So my parents also told me be careful while seeing an Indian, and also like Malays is lazy and not smart and at math. So and so on. So like these races with darker skin is like a derogatory terms in our Chinese mindset. So while I am surrounded by this kind of mindset, naturally we will discriminate against those who possess a darker skin and consider that lighter skin is nice, good, while creating a mindset for the aesthetic, which we only will embrace and praise for lighter skin in our society. Everyone is pursuing lighter skin because they consider that lighter is more beautiful.
I agree with what Anton was saying. Like, especially when growing up, I remember being told that to conserve my skin color because it shouldn't go dark. And yeah, it does set a mindset towards everyone that if you have dark skin, you're not appreciated more, whereas like light skin are given more priority. It's easier to be recognized and respected as a light skin rather than a dark skin. Even light skinned people always think highly about themselves and think that they are better than dark skinned people. There has been a study that shows that 46% of Indians polled claim to have faced discrimination on their skin. This is higher than local Chinese, which is 20%, and also Malays, which is 18%. Some has pointed out that majorities, which is 63.7% of the sample, comes from Chinese controlled companies. With this sample, it suggests that Chinese applicants would always be favored over the Malay's applicant. This is even worse for the Indian applicants. There's very little support for Indian society unless they are fair. And even if they are fair, sometimes they're not considered as Indians. Sometimes people may think that they are a mixed race, which gives them a little bit more opportunity to get jobs and recognition within society.
Yes, exactly. So this reminds me of cases in last year in Malaysia. We had a Malaysian Chinese musician called Hao Ren. He had released a music video called White Door. And in that MV, the actress was literally painted in brown on her face and body to illustrate a darker appearance for the audience. Then for in that storyline of the MV, it shows that the actress character with brown skin appearance is bullied by other girls in school because of her skin tone. So in the storyline, it also shows that a canteen worker speaks to her in Malay, although she is a Chinese, and then her classmates like laugh at hers because because they consider that this is a funny incident just because her dark skin let the worker mistaken her race. So the musician then appeared and give the poor girl a drink sachet, which is a whitening product to lighten her complexion. So after the actress is in fair skin due to the product, her previous bullies now respect her now because they think that she's become beautiful. So is it being a Malay or darker skin is a shame? Aren't we embrace every skin color and respect them? I think this kind of colorism should be taken as an important issue and should be taken in our society.
Well, that is not the only advertisement to show this type of discrimination. There's also an advertisement by Watson too that discriminate against darker skin. In the storyline, it was said that a prince was waiting to find the perfect bride, and he went through like numerous bride, and one of the bride was actually a very dark princess. But the moment that she had fair skin, he decided to marry her. And I think that this is personally bad mentality because it tells us that darker skin is not capable or should not have the same beauty standards as lighter skin. So with that, we will end our presentation.
Okay, as we can see with the experience shared here, we can conclude that there is still a lot of work to be done even today, and we have to do our part by voting for the right politicians who support and promote laws that ensure the inclusive laws for the work area. And of course, work together to eliminate those stereotypes and prejudices that we have towards people with darker skin.